The New Britain Board of Education, providing students with a high-quality education.
Good evening. I'd like to call this Board of Ed meeting to order at 6:10 p.m. And can I ask, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Who are you speaking to, Diana?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, and Kristen, can you call the roll?
Mr. Merrill Gay.
Here.
Mr. Nicholas Marcio.
Here.
Dr. Violet Jimenez Sims.
Here.
Miss Monica Dawkins.
Here.
Mr. Anthony Kane. Miss Annie Parker.
Here.
Miss Diana Reyes.
Here.
Miss Nancy Rodriguez. Miss Gail Sanders Connolly.
Here.
And for the record, Nancy Rodriguez has to work, and we extend our birthday greetings to Mr. Kane, who is celebrating his 40th today. All right, so now let's have a moment of meditation and before we get into the meeting. Okay, so I think our first item is the student recognition.
Thank you. Leona Clerkin, if you would like to come on now. We're talking about the student recognitions for our partnership and also for CAVE.
I'm just confirming, because it's very hard to hear, you're talking about Atsugi, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I will be presenting a tab. Good evening, Superintendent Sarah, Board of Education members, administrators, parents, students, and guests. Atsugi, Japan is one of the 5 sister cities of New Britain. This sister city relationship was established in 1983. Atsugi is mainly known as a bedroom community for the Tokyo, Yokohama metropolitan area. Every year, yes.
Can you please mute yourself?
From our students here in New Britain for their art show in Japan. I extend the invitation to all of the art teachers based on Atsugi's specifications, which include children ages 6 to 15, pictures and designs using any materials, with about 10 pieces sent for display. The student pieces were selected and matted by their art teachers. Atsugi's superintendent, in turn, sends a lovely thank you letter to us and a token of appreciation to each child. The artwork and tokens of appreciation were sent to each child at their school. In February of 2019, we had a delegation here from Atsugi in New Britain. This photo shows a display of artwork in New Britain City Hall during their visit, which helps to celebrate our 35-year sister city relationship. Tonight we will recognize those students and teachers whose artwork was on display in Atsugi, Japan in January 2020 as part of our sister city relationship. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the student's grade and school represents last school year. Jarlis Medina, Smalley Elementary School, grade 3, art teacher, Mrs. Emerson. Jasmine Buwaliki, Smith Elementary School, grade 2, art teacher, Mrs. Tomiolu. Maura Kane, Hal's Academy, grade 7, Ms. Brodowitz. Dia Al-Sarami, Jefferson Elementary School, grade 4, art teacher, Mrs. Watt. Price Garcia, Chamberlain Elementary School, grade 4, art teacher, Mrs. Watt. Dalton Medina, De Loreto School, grade 1, art teacher, Ms. Lombardo. Alendelis Quintana Diaz, Lincoln Elementary School, grade 5, art teacher, Mrs. Jures. Here are images from the Atsugi Japan art exhibition from January 2020. Congratulations to all of our students and our teachers. And thank you all for your support of New Britain's sister cities.
Okay. Now we have some CABE Student Leadership Awards.
And now, Ms. Clerkin, if you'd like to do the CABE leadership.
Thank you very much. Last year, we selected a male and female representative to be honored with CABE. First, I'd like to recognize Miguel Porter. Miguel Porter attended Hal's Academy and was active in his school community. At Hal's, he was in the string orchestra as a violinist. For the past 2 years, before he went to the high school, Miguel was a member of the Hal's cross-country team and was on the boys basketball team for 8th grade. Every Wednesday, he tutored a 6th grader to help with mentoring, homework, and organization. Miguel was an active member of the school community, helping teachers and his principal by decorating bulletin boards, taking chairs down daily before school, and was a part of the Scholastic Book Fair team, helping with setting up and organizing the Book Fair kickoff. Outside of school, he plays soccer in New Britain, both indoors and outdoors. Miguel is interested in animal science and writing. Miguel is currently a freshman at New Britain High School. Next is Sandra Jakubowski. Sandra Jakubowski was an 8th grade student at Hal's Academy. She was a part of the Hal String Ensemble and mentored students that were struggling with their grades through organization and tutoring support. Sandra was a serious student that spent much of her free time studying or improving her grades. When not studying and working on school, she played volleyball and participates in martial arts. After graduating high school, Sandra's future plans are to go to either UConn, Harvard, or Stanford, so she can become either a lawyer or a dentist. Sandra is currently a freshman at New Britain High School. Thank you.
Okay. So I think we're now ready to move on to public participation. And we have some people on the phone.
So the first number we have is a 203 area code that ends in 57.
Excuse me, Merrill? I'm sorry to interrupt. The De Loreto also has CABE recipients that the De Loreto staff is going to speak about.
Oh, okay. Thank you for pointing that out. Before we go into public participation, we have students from De Loreto that are going to be recognized for their CABE.
So students from De Loreto that are being recognized for the CABE Award, is that Ms. Clerkin or will that be Mr. Ortiz?
Mr. Ortiz.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can I start now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The two students that are going to be recognized are Danquan French and Anwar Al-Kwamis. And I also want to recognize two of the 8th grade teachers that are here as well, as well as Ms. Butterfield in support of both of these nominations for both of these two students selected by the 8th grade award. That's Ms. Jennifer Perez and also Ms. Martha Crawford. So I want to thank them for being here in support of them as well. I'm going to start out with Anwar Al-Kwamis, who consistently has put forth her very best effort in all that she does. Every single day, Anwar is focused on her learning, has her work completed, and takes a very active role in all of her classes. Her work reflects the actions of a student who's truly interested in learning. She's reflective of comments and suggestions made by her teachers and makes a cognizant effort to apply these to her future work. She goes above and beyond all of her assignments. Anwar is kind, helpful, thoughtful, and considerate. She works well in any group and has a natural way of encouraging others. Her positivity is infectious, and her disposition is that of a happy, engaged young woman. Anwar embraces any chance to grow in her ability to be a leader. She takes on any challenge with the utmost diligence and enthusiasm because she wants to do well and be the best that she can be. She always honors any commitment, whether it's academic, social, or sports related. Anwar is a young woman whose potential and determination work hand in hand to make her stand out as a person who makes a difference. Damquan French is our next selection. Is an extremely respectful young man, always very careful with his manners and eager to help out, inside and outside of the classroom. In addition to respecting adults and peers, he's compassionate as well, consistently thoughtful enough to ask how your day's going or how your vacation was, and sincere enough to give the impression that he genuinely cares. Damquan is an individual who is respected by all who know him. He not only attacks his classwork with an active work ethic, but also has a knack for getting peers to follow his lead in their work habits. Dime keeps a low profile, but makes it clear when he's enthused about something, and that enthusiasm is highly contagious. He clearly values good citizenship, and he's respectful in the manner in which he interacts with everyone. Dime is an intelligent worker and is eager to make a positive impact on the classroom and his fellow students. He is kind in all of his interactions, extremely apologetic. When he happens to make a mistake, and quick to often help whenever he senses the need. The leadership and quality of his character that Dime displays speaks to the remarkable young man that he is. I want to thank both of them for being selected for this award. Phenomenal selections. And thank you to our 8th grade teachers for making that recommendation.
Thank you, Alex.
All right, now we're ready to move on to public participation. And we have several people on the phone. We don't know who they are, so they may be staff, they may be people calling in for public comment.
So the first number is area code 203 and it ends in a 57.
If that's you, please unmute yourself by hitting *6 and tell us who you are.
Mind if I just repeat it?
Yep.
If your phone number starts with area code 203 and ends in 57, and you are here for public participation, can you please unmute yourself? *4.
Six.
*6.
*6.
Okay. Next one.
The next one, possibly for public participation, is 1860, and the last 2 digits are 00. If you're calling in for public participation, please unmute yourself, *6. Move on.
Yep.
The next one I have is 1860. The last 2 digits are 18. If you're here for public participation, please unmute yourself.
Hey, you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Hello? Alright, how's everybody doing?
There are 2 people who've unmuted. Someone
Hope you guys
is.
doing good. Listen, I'm a player in New Bern High School, and I just want to say, football means a lot to me. This is my only way out from New Bern. I want to be something great in life. I want to do something for my family. I'm asking you guys to please let us play, at least let us rent out equipment so we can start independently. This is very dependent, and I hope you guys make the right decisions. Thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Attorney Bob Scalise.
Go
Am I
ahead.
live?
Yep, go ahead.
Good to go.
Yes. I've been a coach here at DeWitt High School since 2010. I'm currently the assistant head coach. If COVID has taught us anything, it is the dichotomy in education. It has really shown the haves and the have-nots. That is now playing out in high school football. The haves have the opportunity to purchase their own equipment, to play in independent leagues, to pay hundreds of dollars to play football. An opportunity that our young men do not have. We're asking you to even the playing field and allow these young men the chance to play a couple of games this fall against Platt, Maloney, and any other school systems that are brave enough to allow their players to use their equipment. That's all we're asking for. Please give these young men a chance to continue their season, especially the seniors who need a couple of games of film to help move forward with their education at the next level. I thank you for your consideration. Be from New Britain, be brave, and support these young men. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to circle back to the ones from before that there was no response. If you are area code 203 with the last two digits 57 and you're here for public participation, please unmute yourself now. Okay, moving down. 1860, the last two digits are 00.
If the gentleman who just finished speaking could please remute by hitting *6. Thank you.
The next is 1860. The last two digits are 28. If you're here for public participation, please unmute.
You unmute by hitting *6.
Move to the next. Okay, the next, 1860, last two digits, 68. If you're here for public participation, please unmute, *6. The next, 1860, last two digits, 81. Please unmute, *6 if you're here for public participation.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Hi, my name is Denzel Barnett, and I'm a senior. And it would really be nice for you guys to let us use our equipment so we can play independently. Being a senior, it's been hard. It's something I worked for my whole life, and it's all been taken away. And all we ask for is just you guys to let us use the equipment, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if you can mute yourself again, please.
All right,
Thanks.
Meryl.
no problem.
Kristen
Can you
was
check it?
reminding us to ask for name and address. Please.
I'll do it going forward. So. And the last person I have for public participation, 1860, the last two digits are 83. If you'd like to speak, please unmute
I
yourself,
was asking
star
them.
6.
To check that message, but it's already awesome.
That's all I have for phone numbers. The young gentleman with the last 2 digits, 81, you haven't muted yourself. Can you just give us your name and your address?
Me,
Yeah,
Denzel Barnett, 425 Burridge Street.
Barnett, 425 Burritt. Thank you.
No problem.
His first name is Denzel.
Yes, Barnett.
No, but I thought he said 427, not 425. Am I
He said
hearing things?
425. He said 425.
Oh, okay. I'm totally hearing things. It can happen.
Nancy, could you ask caller 52 to, he never gave us his name, he was the first one.
The caller who called in 1860, last 2 digits 52, if you could unmute and just give us your name and address so we have that for our records.
Hey, Daniel Ortiz, 58 Rocky Avenue.
Say your address one more time.
58 Rocky Hill Avenue.
58 Rocky Hill Ave.
Alright, thank you guys.
Thank you. And then the, I think the 18 number was Attorney Scalise.
Yep.
That's it for public participation.
Okay. You just had somebody, is that 28 that just joined?
28 and 04 both just joined.
Okay.
Okay. Try that. If you are here for public participation and your number is 1860, the last 2 digits are 28, please unmute yourself, star 6.
And 04 was the other one.
And the last one we have for public participation, 1860. Last 2 digits are 04. If you'd like to speak, please unmute yourself, star 6. Last 2 digits, 04. And we just had a new one come in,
68 just
Yes.
joined.
just joined.
Do you want to just do like a last call?
Sure.
Hey, Miss, excuse me.
Yep.
Yep,
I have a son that is having difficulty. If you would like to speak, can you speak through my phone?
Sure.
sure.
All right.
Thanks.
Give his name and address.
Speak. Look. Hello.
Hello, we're here.
Hello, my name is Emmanuel. I'm a senior, and all we're asking for is if you guys can allow us to use the equipment so we can have an independent season, because everybody here has been working extremely hard, and we have our one goal at least, have a game, have some film for all our seniors, so we can prosper to go to the next level. So we're asking this one chance to let us use this equipment so we can really share what we actually believe in, and it's football.
Last name
Thank you
and
for your
address.
time.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Can I have your last name and your address on?
Emmanuel Madera, 469 Stanley Street.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public participation?
068.
Hit star 6 and unmute yourself.
68 just did.
Hello.
Oh,
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
yep.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jesse Tando. I'm a senior playing for the Grand High football team. And me, just like me and my other teammates out here, just really want an opportunity, one chance
to have an independent season. All we're asking for is that you guys run us the equipment that we need to have our independent season, because everyone here really wants a chance at this season. Me as a senior, just like some other guys out here, have one last year to play, one last year to get film, one last year to compete and have fun for our last year as a senior. And all we're asking for is a one opportunity, one chance. Thank you.
Jesse's last name.
Thank you. Can you give us your last name and your address, hon?
My name is Jesse Tando. My address is 939 West Main Street.
West Main.
I didn't hear the last name.
Yeah, can you repeat your last name? Sorry.
Tandoh, Tando.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to close?
Yeah, just ask one more time if, they just have them unmute themselves. If they-
Sure. We're going to ask one last time because we do still see some callers. If you haven't had an opportunity to speak during public participation and you would like to, unmute yourselves with *6 and give us your name and address.
Okay. Now, of course, my screen. Okay. We will now move on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'm going to speak loudly. It's not too hard for me. I hope the people in the audience can hear it as well. Not surprisingly, my first update has to do with football. We have done a lot of talking to the coaches. There's been a lot of counsel from CIAC. Mr. Porter was here also to speak with me, alongside me. And while we will fully participate in what CIAC has recommended or the schedule that they put out, I actually forwarded to all board members. I think it was today, it might have been yesterday. We will be participating in that. There's just a few points that I want to bring up. We had a really good meeting with our head football coach last Friday or Thursday. And a few things that were said, not only by the callers, but just I think as an urban center have resonated with me, is one, the governor did not call off football altogether in the state. If he did, we wouldn't see PAL, we wouldn't see the junior Canes, we wouldn't be seeing all of these teams continuing to play. I had the opportunity to go to our first soccer game on Friday, which was great to see the kids on the field. But again, a contact sport. And when I think about our leagues that are playing that are not affiliated with the school district, we have children 10 years old, 12 years old, 14-year-olds playing. When it comes to high school, they stop playing because as a school, it's important that we follow what CIAC say. However, there is a way for any of our kids in the city who fall between a certain age to be able to play football. That does require funds. It requires them to purchase equipment. And this is where there are some inequities. Because across our state, there are several towns that are opting in for this club-like football that's unrelated to the school district. But there are also funds that may become more readily to some families than others. So in terms of leveling the playing field, our head football coach came and asked, could we loan our equipment to the junior Canes so that students or residents of New Britain who fall within a certain age are able to use that equipment while they're playing for the town. It's not school sanctioned. It would not be school sanctioned. It would be us loaning our equipment to the students or to the junior Raiders or junior Canes, in place of playing football here. And the third thing that I think is important, and a lot of our football players, after speaking with Mr. Bodie, have opted to go to other towns and play because there isn't an age bracket right now that they can play in here. But our town is willing to open that up for any young man or woman who wants to play at that age group. Rather than them going to other towns where we don't know the other students that they're commingling with, and cohorting is important to us, it would make sense that we allow or we loan our equipment so that any student who resides in New Britain has an opportunity to play a full game. I'm going to turn it over to Letty now. Football is not my number one, so I know very little, but I do know how to advocate for kids. And I think it's important that they are able to, like our soccer players, like our volleyball players, get out there and be able to play together. Go ahead, Letty.
This is a touchy situation because it really does go back to the haves and the have-nots. In Connecticut, for example, Fairfield County has about 10 teams that the school didn't loan them the equipment. The parents or the booster club bought the equipment for them. So they have, under the midget football program for Fairfield County, they now have what is called a U19 league, so that they can play against each other and have an 11-on-11 football games and have a season. The only school in our area that's currently lending equipment is Meriden. Meriden has agreed to lend equipment to the student athletes of football players of Platt and Maloney under the sanction, and they will play under the sanctions of their midget football program in town, the town of Meriden. Southington and Glastonbury have not loaned equipment out because, again, their booster club and their parents have purchased equipment for those kids. So they are forming their own little teams. I think that, it's an opportunity. You've heard those young men speak. It's an opportunity to kind of even the playing field a little bit in allowing our student athletes of a certain age to play organized football under coaches that we know and coaches that they've already worked with. They're not going to some renegade program and taking their chances with, whatever equipment they could scrap up. So I think it provides our players an economic opportunity that our athletes might not be able to achieve if we don't lend them the equipment. Meriden did send over to us a copy of the waiver that they received, that they issued to every parent to sign, and they sent over a statement from Shipman and Goodwin that explains the legalities of it. New Britain High School would not be a part of the running of this league. I would not be running and setting up games like I do for, you heard volleyball out there tonight, and soccer that Nancy spoke of earlier. This would be something that would be run by the junior games. We do have, and you got that schedule, we did get a schedule of 7-on-7 football, which we've already reserved the stadium for the next 2 Fridays. But 7-on-7 football is really eliminating the linemen. So all your big guys that do the blocking and the hard work up front, they get left out. And it's just the quarterback and the receivers. So that's really all I have for you. If you have any questions, I'd gladly answer them.
How about comments? Does anyone have any comments?
guess the best way to ask, are you asking the board to vote and put it on the agenda? Is
Yes.
that like, that's the ask?
Yes, that's the ask. The ask is for the board to vote on lending equipment to the junior canes so they can outfit our current New Britain High School players with equipment that's already fitted and keeps them protected. I just want to add to, you know, whenever, and again, kids, all of our young men and women have to learn, you come, you advocate, you don't always get. But the fact that they came and they advocate, and I have to respect Coach Bodie because that's how he's raising up this team. You need to, if you want something, you come, you pose an argument, and then you wait to see. And I think it's good for them to see that there's a process in place. But for me, I would like board support on this by way of a vote. It's not a decision that I'm taking lightly, and it's not one I want to make alone.
Totally understand. And then by, I don't know the process, Mr. Mercier, Mr. Gay, like, at what point can we put this on the agenda for a vote for action? And I'll make, it would be a simple motion of allowing our kids or borrow our equipment for the season. It's a simple motion. We have the paperwork from attorneys and all of that. So process-wise.
Process-wise, the most appropriate place for it would be under new business after when we have other businesses permitted by law, just to make sure that that which is already on our agenda gets dispatched. But it's a motion that technically can be made by at any point and requires a 2/3 vote to add an item to the agenda. But it gets added sort of to the end.
To the end. Just because, I don't know if any of you noticed, most of our young men are standing outside and they probably have homework that they need to be getting to. So I'll just put that out there. I know.
It's a question of the disposition of the board.
Okay.
We can control the agenda as we see fit.
Does somebody want to make such a motion?
I would love to make such a motion. I just want to make sure I get my words right.
Can I ask something before and then just to the report? So, you're saying a simple motion, but including the waiver and things like that, I think if it's just said as lending without any other parameters, then we're not establishing that right away.
Okay.
And I don't know if I wait till after the motion or whatever, if I ask now. So to sort of take the liability off the district, yes, this is just the equipment and it's going to the junior canes. Are any of our staff also working with them there? Does that add a layer of possible liability?
They can't be working.
They would be working with their students, but it would not be under the auspices of New Britain High School. It would be under the Junior Canes U19 team.
So they wouldn't be seen liability-wise as an agent of the district doing
Correct.
that?
That's correct. They'd be unaffiliated
They
with
would
the
be-
district while they're on their turf.
None of these games or competitions would be under the auspices of New Britain Public Schools.
Okay, so we have a motion to add an item to the agenda.
She didn't make it yet.
I didn't make it
Okay, why
yet?
don't you make that agenda, because that's really the first motion, we gotta.
Okay, all right. So I would like make a motion that the Board of Education approve the use of district football
Okay,
equipment for
now,
our students.
what you need to do is make a motion to.
Make a
add
motion
this
to
the
add
agenda.
something.
To add, yeah.
Who am I? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to add something to the agenda.
And what are you adding to the agenda? Discussion?
Discussion and possible vote for loaning our district football equipment.
Second.
Okay, so we have a seconded motion. We now would, is there further discussion on the item?
Who would ask me this?
What's
I
that?
forget if it's a debatable motion off the
I
top
was
of my
just gonna
head.
say, I don't think it is just.
I don't
Okay.
think it's debatable.
All right, so
Yeah,
not a
to
debatable
add it.
motion. All right, so All in favor of adding this item to the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, so now we have, yes?
I'd like to make a motion to take the item out of order in the interest of the students who are waiting, and so that we can tie this closely to our discussion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a seconded motion to.
Non-debatable.
Non-debatable, to move this up on the agenda, to deal with it first. All in favor of doing that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will now deal with this item. You want to introduce it again so that,
Okay. So I'd make a motion that the Board of Education approve the use of district football equipment by our students and allow use of, I don't think we have to allow use of our facilities. So just use of our equipment.
and that's getting, it's getting lent to the junior canes, not to the individual players.
Correct. It is there for their use. They can choose to or not use the equipment.
All right, is there anything that needs to be said about waivers or?
I would like to add that in order to participate, I don't know if that's a motion, but they would need to sign the waiver put forth by Shipman and Goodwin, as well as the coach waiver. So there's those two things. And they obviously need to follow all of the protocols set forth for mitigation strategies, like sanitizing the equipment when they come off the field and all of that.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion?
Just trying to get some clarity on the actual wording of the full motion.
Yep, sorry.
So it's a motion to approve the use of New Britain High School football equipment by student-age athletes within New Britain under the auspices of the Junior Canes by students who have completed waivers and other requirements.
Perfect.
And will abide by the rules and
Safety
procedures set forth by the Junior Canes.
Right. Perfect.
Okay,
So if that's your motion, I'll second it.
all right, got a seconded motion.
That's perfect, that's my motion.
All right, now, do we have any debate on this item? Anybody?
I do just want to reiterate that football is not banned, right? It is considered a high risk, but it has not been banned. And these kids will find a way to play. Some of them have. Our more affluent towns are playing, and they are independent. Our neighbors, Meriden, their board actually took it up and voted 7-2 to allow them just to use the equipment.
Yeah. Mr. Porter would like to add
Yeah,
something?
I just want to give you a little information from my point of view. I have parents who have children that are in 5th and 6th grade and are playing for the Junior Canes or for PAL. Every afternoon or every evening, they go down to the field and they play. They either go to Osgood or they go to the PAL field and they play. And I have a parent that calls me, a few of them that have called and said, hey, how come my 6th and 7th grader can play, but my son who's a sophomore can't play football? How come? It's a tough explanation, and it's hard for them to understand that. And, I think this will give them just a little bit of satisfaction.
And we don't have any data on whether or not any of those kids have gotten a virus.
Where, at the Junior Canes or the PAL?
Mhm.
No, we do
don't
not,
have any.
but they've had their games every Sunday, they haven't stopped any of them.
They're in
Now,
week 4.
obviously, if that happened, we would stop. But at least we attempted to participate.
I'm not a huge fan of football, period. Like, it's not my game. Never has been. But where I see this really being is from that equity angle. And even if I was someone who was not a fan of football, like, and strongly opposed to it, I would have a problem with the fact that the more affluent communities and the students who don't have the socioeconomic burdens that some of our students face have this access to equipment by virtue of being in a wealthier town. So I plan on supporting this, even though, like I said, football's not my sport. And I'm not a huge fan of football overall, but I am a huge fan of our students having the opportunities, you know, and our families that see a value in this. So I will be supporting this.
Anybody else?
In terms of COVID data, because I think that matters too, right? So town by town, these other towns that are playing, I know New Britain consistently keeps coming up as one of the higher risk places in Connecticut overall. So how does that impact, you know, if we have no control, but at the same time, is there, you know, is there a number where if it's this, then they're not playing, and we know that that's their policy, or things like that, because then it does impact, you know, I understand that they can go somewhere else and just play, but we're one of the places with the problems, not the other places, right? So, yeah, what info do you have on that?
I don't have any data at all from the junior canes or the PAL, but I do know we would have some control in the fact that they are still our students. So if they were playing and one of the students that's playing, you know, tests positive, well, you know, he's not going to be in school, and then it's their call, it's the junior canes call, or, you know, to either say, hey, you know, we can't play for 2 weeks or whatever, because that's out of, what we're doing is just lending equipment, and that particular decision is out of our hands. But we do have, you know, the ability to isolate that kid, you know, from live in school education.
I'm actually trying to text Pete Largent, see if it, because he's like the president of that league, he may have like an answer. I'm sure it's on the top of his head, because I've watched what they do in between games, and so they must have a plan in place.
Right, because my concern is that obviously that is close contact, and you have the linemen with no mask, 5 feet or what, you know, within the.
They are gonna have shields.
There would be a shield under the
helmet
that goes under
face
the
mask.
helmet. That is like a mandatory piece. It's almost like this, but it's not right up against their face.
But it's plexiglass.
It's plexiglass
yeah.
under the mask.
You know, they have the,
Yep, it's a face shield.
Face
I don't know what
shield.
it's called, the braid.
It's a face shield under the face mask.
Right.
Same thing.
So do they usually have these, or this is just specific?
This is for now. Some players have it on all the time, but it is, if you, Andy, I know when you watch the college football games and the pro games all the time, you see it.
The
Yes.
one where people got sick last week, I saw that one.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so that's a concern.
Yeah, they move games.
Something similar happened too to soccer teams, right? It's not like we're going into this not knowing that that might happen.
Right.
In Farmington on Friday, their boys soccer team was on the bus ready to go to Avon. And the vice principal called the AD and said, hey, did they leave yet? No. Well, stop the bus. He went out because one of the younger players, JV players on that team, tested positive. So he stopped the bus, took the whole team off, explained to them that they all got to quarantine for 14 days and there's no games, which affected us because we're supposed to play them this coming Thursday. And they didn't play Avon Friday, and now they're going to miss a few games. But that's what's happening all over the country with every level of sports, not just high school and not just pros. I mean, I think there was 8 college football games canceled this weekend.
But I think the important thing is our students will accept that. I mean, that's logical. If that happens because there's an outbreak, they'll accept that and say we can't play. But the fact that the high school was really the only players that were singled out and other ones are playing
It's nonsensical.
It doesn't
Yeah,
make
it doesn't.
sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's, and from what, I had some really, some of our students emailing me saying that that does not make sense. And I have to agree with them, that doesn't make sense, I don't understand it either.
Hard to explain to a parent when their younger siblings are playing and the older ones
Right.
can't. Tough.
All right, any further debate on this?
I just have a comment. because I always
Okay.
have a comment.
What are you, Gail today? Like,
I know. So, I mean, from the standpoint of liability and this and that, which is where we're at, which is the piece that falls on us. You know, I get your explanation, you have the waiver, and, you know, I'm for people doing whatever they see is fit for them. But, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, you know, equity and equality are not the same thing, right? Equality, everyone gets a pair of shoes. Equity, everyone gets a pair of shoes that fit. And we are in a city that has higher cases, that is likely to have more of the underlying concerns that make COVID a lot more serious and things like that. So I hope that, you know, the people using this and whatever take all that into account. You know, like you said, it's beyond our control, and I can only hope for the best, but it would be heartbreaking to hear of a tragedy. The other thing is that between the emails and then even in some of the calls, I heard things like, this is my way out of New Britain, and that's like beyond heartbreaking for the narrative of urban students to be that success is getting out of where you are, right? As we all stand here, successful, those most of us who are still in the city for a reason. So it's awesome to see that the students are being empowered to advocate for themselves, and that's something that I'm 100% behind. But I hope also that the adults, you know, who deal with them, sort of address that narrative a little bit different about what success is and how football can obviously get them there. But the common, like, it's get out of the urban space is just like, you know, it's heartbreaking to hear that. So I just want to put that all out there so that my heart and mind is good to go, and that's it.
And I just want to say, I have a real concern. I'm more concerned about something happening to the kids. And I don't know the people who are running these programs. I don't know what their limitations are in terms of how far are they willing to go, how long are they willing to go. When something happens, it sounds like we're not going to have any control over saying that they should stop playing, that it has to come from someone else. I'm just not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with any one child getting sick, no matter what the reason. So I'm going to vote no.
Andy, you know what, that's, I'm just gonna give you an example. We have, you know, sports that are currently running. We have girls volleyball, boys and girls soccer, and cross country. And the number of participants is down in all of them. You know, Michelle's volleyball team, she usually has like 110 to try out. Well, she had far from that this year. And some kids that played last year, you know, Coach Abraham calls them up and says, hey, what's going on? You know, my mother doesn't want me to play because she's afraid I'm gonna bring this home to my grandparents. And so that's, you know, the waiver portion of that paper, of that agreement, each parent has to say, you know, okay, I'm gonna let you play. So that might not happen to every single family because of situations that are, you know, that are occurring. This young girl played for 2 years, and she's a relative of a former athletic director here, and, you know, her mother said, we can't risk it right now. We can't risk it. And that's the option that every parent of those football players is gonna have. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else need to say anything? All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
2 nays. Any abstentions? All right, so that
Can I
is-
request a roll call vote, please? Just for clarity.
Okay.
Mr. Gay?
It's much easier when I just had to call the name. I guess I am nervous about this because we have the 4th highest COVID rate in the state, and this just feels like we're giving our students an out to get around public health concerns. So I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Mercier?
Aye.
Dr. Sims?
I'm abstaining.
Ms. Dawkins?
I vote no.
Ms. Parker?
Nay.
Nay.
Ms. Reyes? Ms. Sanders Powell?
Aye.
The final vote, we have 3 ayes, 3 nays, and 1 abstention.
So that fails.
So it fails.
Because of the abstention?
It fails because it's a tie. Tie votes fail.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you. Clearly, this has been anxiety-producing for all of us since the beginning of the year. And it's represented too with the board members. I thank you for taking the time and having the discussion around it. We're showing our team that it is good to come out and speak up, but it doesn't always end up with the answer that they want. But that there is a decision and there was a rationale behind it. So thank you. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Can I just make one more comment? Just know that these kids can still go out and play. So what we did here was a disservice to them, I think.
I do have a little bit more of my superintendent report.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes, please.
What I gave you this week is, and I also have Mr. Taddeo on call if we need to ask him specific questions. But part of the report was to just show you the meals that are being distributed on average on a daily basis. And it's pretty simple to read. There's breakfast and then there's lunch. And it goes by cohort A, cohort B, and remote. And you can see that by school, and what our total numbers of distribution are each day. And then also we have started the weekend remote feeding again. We got the waiver. And so New Britain High School and Smith are our 2 sites for the weekend to feed the students. And we're giving out about 1,300 on our weekends. And, you know, I'd spoken to Jeff about this. If this is something that the board would like to see, maybe on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, you tell me, and we can just include it as one of our reports. Just so we can keep our pulse on that. Any questions on this report?
So just looking at this, it's 5,500 breakfasts out of our, well, 5,500 and then remote, so no, that's another, so we're talking about 7,500. So about 3/4 of the kids who we would normally be feeding are getting fed.
Are getting fed. That's correct.
Okay.
And also, just to add on to this, I, in cabinet today, did meet with my cabinet members. We are working on a really short presentation for our families that will be going out individually from each school. And it's really to go over with them some of the city services that are available in terms of shelter, housing, feeding sites, etc. It's taking what the city has put together and just touching base with our families. We did want to kind of standardize it across our district, but we understand the importance of a building leader and possibly a board member. We'll be setting those up for the end of October. We're going to be working on it this coming week, bringing it back next Tuesday for cabinet to look at those slides and having our admins just have some input. And again, it's really for all of our families to say, here's what we've done so far. Is there anything that you need that we can provide for you? Here are some services available to you also. You know, as we continue on now in the 7th and 8th month of the pandemic, there are people who are, you know, constantly facing housing issues, food shortages, etc. We want to be sure that we know who those families are because they can't come into our buildings really. So we're going to kind of go up to them. We have stopped home visiting. I stopped that this week just because we are seeing an uptick and we're trying to be as pure as we can and you know, stay within our bubble to make sure that we're keeping staff and students safe. But we are planning on doing this at the end of October, so I didn't know, Mr. Gay, if you wanted to assign board members at one point or another to maybe partner with a building admin toward the end of October and be on that town hall meeting, just let me know.
Okay. So yeah, I think that would be good. I had gotten a list of, have to look at, to see which school Diane Leah had been on and figure out how we cover that one as well. But I will send out that list to everybody. But the idea of trying to do a sort of town hall with each school to
Yes.
Just see connect, see where families are, get some feedback on how things are going.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the only thing I did not put down is, I don't know if you've noticed some of our, work displayed here. We do have the Commissioner of Education and the Governor coming here tomorrow because it was 3 years ago that our education pathways in the Public Service Academy, we partnered with Educators Rising, which is a grow your own teacher model. And we're in our 3rd year with them now. Cindy Frioli is the one, and Colleen Miles from the high school are the ones who run the class. And I know Sandy also works with the state a bit. So we kind of have a partnership with the talent office at the state. And so they're coming here to see, one of our students will be speaking tomorrow to hear more about Educators Rising. And I think they're rolling it out to 8 or 9 other districts in the state. So anyway, but we are the veterans here now, so that's a nice visit, right? They'll be here. So anyone who's available can be here for 12 noon tomorrow.
Okay.
And that's about it for my superintendent report this week.
All right. So we have committee reports. So, policy committee?
Policy committee met, we reviewed the guideline, the graduation requirements for this year. There's some amendments that we brought forth that are on the agenda. We're also reviewing our Title IX policies in light of some changes in those regulations that we will be bringing forward probably at next month's meeting.
Okay. And curriculum?
We had a combined meeting with finance and got a presentation, an update on the district-wide curriculum overhaul, because that is on the agenda for approving the funds to continue that work, as well as a few other things for different schools that have to do with like social emotional services at Di Loretto, culturally responsive teaching practices at Di Loretto, and any of those consultant items that you see on the agenda today.
Okay. Add anything finance-wise?
Just say we tagged along with curriculum so we could hear the presentation instead of going through it again. So that's basically what finance went through.
Okay. And personnel?
Yes, and we met and we dealt with some personnel transactions and some appointments and job descriptions, and those items on the agenda for tonight.
Okay, thank you. And are there board reports? Board members?
Can I just mention, we had a person pass away that was a teacher here in New Britain for many years, Alden Graham. He taught at New Britain High School English, and he also taught ESL. And he was the union president, teachers union president for many years. And I just thought maybe if we could have a moment of silence for Alden Graham's family and friends.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other board reports? Okay. And now, presentations. Parent guidance for online interaction. Mr. Spalding?
Mr. Spalding is not here this evening. Ms. Swaby is though.
Yes, we are here.
Oh, you are here. Thank you. Sorry.
Spalding is here. Hi, how are you? Good evening, everyone. So Matt Canada, can you share that document on the screen? We will do that at this time. Okay. All right, so folks, so as you're probably aware, like other districts, we've had our share of some folks being inappropriate or frustrated, but I'd like to say parents are frustrated. At the beginning of the year, not being able to log on, there was frustration, and some folks were not appropriate at all times during interaction on the online platform. And so we reached out to Shipman and Goodman, and they've provided guidance to other districts, and so they've done the same for us. So we have an outline that we shared with you with the board recently, beginning of the year. And so we just added a couple of pieces to that, and this is what Shipman gave to us. So it just is an opening statement, and we're going to share this out. We'll go on our website, we'll share it out with the families. I toned it down a little bit. I thought the language was a little harsh. But anyways, the Consolidated School District is grateful for the support of our entitled community. Our students, quickly adapted. You can read it here. Please remember, per the guidance from the Connecticut Department of Ed, that students are expected to attend school every day, whether they're physically in school or not. During learning days, there's an expectation students log in, and they engage in classroom lessons. Next slide, please. So this, the language was, guardians are expected to. A lot of our families, we know they're working, people are at home, some people are at home, it's very difficult and challenging. So we're encouraging and we want to work with them. And we're going to utilize our social workers and our teachers to assist our families. We're doing it now. We've had PPTs. We know it's a challenge for them, but we don't want to come across as harsh. We want to come across as nurturing. And so we're asking, folks, if families, if they're able to be present when the student logs in each day, so that they're engaging in a task. We want parents to help ensure that students stay on schedule and attending classes. Attendance is very important, as we're aware. We want to help ensure that students follow rules and guidance established by the teacher or the implementer of the lesson. We hope that they're available throughout the day to help answer questions that students may have and encourage their child to ask content-based questions to their teacher. We want to aim to provide guidance. We want them to ensure the student does the thinking in the coursework, they're actually doing the work. We want them to encourage their child to be an active participant in their learning, if they're able to do so. And we're asking that they refrain from participating in virtual lessons and interacting with staff during the lessons, except in an emergency circumstance. We're asking families to refrain from recording the sessions, audio or video. There are exceptions. I mean, sometimes when we have PPTs and things of that sort, or that's permissible. And we're asking them to ensure that the student complies with relevant policies set by the board and administrative regulations. Next slide, please. So parents and guardians who are supporting their children during remote learning must remain civil and respectful to staff and other students and parents at all times. Importantly, parents must refrain from disrupting instruction and the education process. If a parent or guardian has a concern regarding their students' remote learning, the parent or guardian should contact the teacher and/or administrator privately at the end of the remote learning session to discuss their concern. Please know that when a parent or guardian engages in behavior that disrupts instruction, school staff are directed to immediately end parent guardian's access to the remote learning classroom. While student privacy and confidentiality of student information is of the utmost importance, parents and guardians are reminded that the consolidated school district of Britain is not in direct control of individual homes or the physical locations of students participating in video conferencing remotely. And then we have a link to our board policy on harassment. We've had some instances where there's been some inappropriate interaction with students by relatives in the home and whatnot, and then some parents have been upset with the pace of the lesson, and they've said things to the parents that are on the call, that are in the platform. And to students and teachers as well. So it's challenging for our teachers, and they are, they're under a lot of pressure, and we want to be supportive of them as well. And it's a balancing act, obviously. So this helps with that. For us, for me, and for our cabinet, in my department, we're going to do our best to work with parents where those frustrations are occurring. And but this does set a bar, and there is an expectation that people adhere to it. And we're going to help, we have paraeducators that are supporting our kids as well, and we're going to be showing them on how, proper protocols if you have to shut down a lesson in an emergency. And we'll be providing contact information for our families. If they have a concern, they certainly can call us. Again, I personally have dealt with some of these issues at PPTs, and so has my team. And so far, it's been pretty good, frankly. And we'll be providing this in Spanish and Arabic as well. Any questions?
So just a quick one. These are all students that they're not at like daycares or anything, right? Or like at the Y?
It's really hard, I'm sorry, it's very difficult for me here.
Do you mind if I repeat what you asked?
Yeah, just because.
So she's saying, these are not students who are currently at a remote learning site like the YM, the Boys and Girls Club, Pathways. This is in the home, correct?
That is correct, yeah, these are things. So, and many of these families have opted to keep their child home in remote learning, that's their choice. but then they're frustrated with, what they're seeing. But no, you're absolutely right. These have only occurred in the home at this point.
I do want to say, I have 2 grandchildren who are virtual, and one of the problems is, even though they're in the classes, somehow the attendance, it doesn't show that they were in the class. And so we have to end up calling the guidance counselor or somebody to make sure they get credit for it, because my daughter get notices or saying that they're not in class, and we know they're there because I'm there with them. And the other thing is sometimes they get shut out of the computer, which I know happens. And so I'm hoping those things will get better as time goes on. But I can see how frustrating it could be for parents. Luckily, I have someone that can help me help them. But, if you're not savvy with this, then it is.
So Mark, I'm not sure if you heard Ms. Parker, but basically, she has 2 grandchildren. She has 2 grandchildren that she's virtually teaching at home. And at times, they're not even counted in as part of the attendance as a virtual learner. And, as a former educator, it's frustrating to her because her daughter will get these notices that her children have not attended school. And I'm gonna just ask Jeff Prokop right now. Jeff, do we have that hotline, or do we have a helpline for our families who are experiencing technical difficulties?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, right now, insofar as we have the parent help method that can be used, either through contacting on a form or reaching out to parenthelp@csdmb.org. We do give callbacks when requested, so I know we have that in. I also know though that Sandra's been Sandra Sanford has been working up other helpline concepts as part of it. But that's currently what we have in terms of those types of immediate ways to get assistance. Insofar as connectivity, I was just running reports here too, going back to the beginning of the year, just showing, at least in terms of connection, how we are certainly getting much greater connectivity with our parents and our students at this stage at a 97% rate. So it, just I guess as a perspective to maybe the levels of actual connectivity issues per se, versus it being maybe class, how the class is flowing or the use of the teacher tools and getting the kids re-engaged remotely, that might be part of, say, what's being described in what Ms. Parker is mentioning.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback, so attendance is a big hit this year in people services, and I'm on the attendance team with Sandra Sanford. In fact, we have a meeting tomorrow with the state. And, we're looking at we want to ensure that all our kids are accounted for. We're looking for flexibility amongst our teachers. I know there's certain requirements we have to meet, but for instance, students some of our students with disabilities who have their families have opted to keep them at home. Due to their disability, they may not be able, or it may not be appropriate for them to log in. So we're looking at other things, other ways to engage them, and we're going through the PPT process for that. But attendance for us, we know it's a challenge, and we're reaching out to community partners. But I want to assure you that if someone is trying to log in, if someone is logged in and they're participating, you can be sure that they're going to be counted. So again, this helpline, that'll be helpful. And again, if there's a concern, please reach out to me and we'll figure that out.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, we're good, Mark, thank you.
Okay. And 2019-2020 year in review?
That would be me.
Yeah.
Can we just put that up in presentation mode, Kristen? So about 2 weeks ago, I forwarded all of the board members through Google Docs the comprehensive scorecards by department, what their goals were, what the strategies were, and whether or not they met them. But to be transparent to the public too, I need to be able to show. And so what I've done is a SparkNote version of the 40 pages you got. And this might be a little more palatable for you just to kind of look at the year in review. So can you click on for the first? I wouldn't give any more than 1 page per department. That was my thing, that was my challenge, to bring all of what I've given you down to 1 page. And you know, for every slide I can say, and then COVID hit, right? And so I want you to understand that a lot of this, if you see yellows, it's because COVID hit. And we had to pivot and change the direction of what our work was to triage and create a system of online virtual learning for all kids across all departments, right? This was all hands on deck. So I am going to start here. You know, a few years, when I first came on board, I thought it was really important that we had people that would be able to support building leaders in the buildings, right? Oftentimes, Department of Academics would do work. It wouldn't always translate over to the buildings. Administrators needed a better through line to know what is going on in the district via curriculum instruction. And also to provide supports for new leaders, because oftentimes, and I'll just speak directly, when I was principal, if I had someone come in once or maybe twice in my 6 years, I was doing good. This is our way of ensuring that they get the support they need, we retain them, etc. So we currently have 3 people who are working with our administrators. Mike Foran works at the secondary. We have Christina Denegre, who took the place of Tricia Putnam after retirement. And then we have Nicole Sanders. They all have other roles, but they spend half of their time helping grow our administrators. And basically what they do is they have monthly professional development, and you'll see yellow because we never got through the rest of the school year. They would go on walkthroughs with all the principals. Our look-fors last year were all around the Common Core of Teaching, Domain 3, which is instruction, right? We did 1A, which is what's the culture and climate like in your classroom? We did 3B, 3C, how's your instruction? And they are tied together. So these are the goals that they set for themselves with multiple strategies, but I wanted to just give you a summary of their work. And basically, they stalled, and we're in, you'll see next month when I present the goals for this coming year, a lot of them remain the same. Maybe we've tweaked them because we say, it really wasn't the best goal, we can tweak it. But it hasn't changed, right? It's to help build capacity in administrators who help and partner with their teachers to build capacity in teachers and students. So those goals really never change. It's thinking about the strategies and reflecting on the work, but oftentimes we're in the business of education. And our job is to build capacity in not only students, but staff as well. Okay, next slide. Our academics department, we were really proud of our work last year, and there's some irony here that it just stopped on March 13th, right? We were going in such a good trajectory with attendance, with curriculum, with all of that, and then March 13th hit, and we had to change. I didn't include any of the work we did from March, April, May, or June, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that I have a cabinet and administrators that worked morning, noon, and night on creating something out of nothing. And we were able to put together the DAB website, which was our first Band-Aid of getting it together for kids. But in their first life, before COVID hit, we were partnering with EdAdvance, and we're working on this curriculum development, right? This renewed curriculum project of not only writing curriculum, but also doing prereq classes with a lot of our teachers around student-centered teaching. Right, the shift from the adult in front of the classroom to the adult more in the middle, engaging their kids so that they're talking to one another, all tied back to our profile of the graduate, right? Of creating young men and women who are independent, critical problem solvers when they graduate. So what does our classroom have to look like if I'm trying to grow, we're trying to grow these students to be that? And it's got to shift, right? It can't just be the teacher talking. So we were doing very well. We were on our way. They were, Department of Academics not only put the curriculum out there, they were going on walkthroughs with administrators, looking for evidence of those things that we are teaching. Do we see evidence in the classroom? We had to pivot everything we did, you'll see, to change, to start writing those readiness units. When we stopped, how do you keep going on walkthroughs? We couldn't barely figure out how to connect, right? And so the goals, again, you will see the next set of goals that are coming up mirror these very closely. But if we're going to be honest and true, we didn't make our goals. Green being we make our goals, yellow meaning we were on our way, red meaning it stalled, we didn't. And that's what, this is a summary of what you have with a lot more language. I'm going to move to the next. If you have questions, stop me now, but I want to move through this in the interest of time. The next is our Pupil Service Department. And I think the highlight for me here is the two reds. We have worked really hard with Wilson Reading, which is a intensive, hands-on foundational type reading program for students at about age 8 to 18 or 20. It's usually for students who have characteristics or have been identified as having dyslexia. And so Wilson Reading is something we wouldn't even start until the students are about 8 or 9 years old. Between Wilson and then Reading, I can't remember the name of it now. I think it's Reading Plus, but I'm not exactly sure for our high school students. What we noticed was that the goals that they wrote didn't transfer over to the other measures. So we said 80% of our kids are going to move in reading as a result of Wilson, as measured by the DRA. What they found out halfway through, you won't see that kind of growth on a DRA. If a student gets to a level 3 in Wilson, you might start to see the needle move a little bit on a DRA because that starts to get into the land of comprehension. Before that, it's straight foundational. So they rewrote their goals this year to be more realistic. And the purpose of writing goals is absolutely, we want to hit the green on every mark, but you're not always going to. You're just not. So you have to back up, problem solve, think of how you can skin that cat again, and then move forward. And that's exactly what they're doing for next year. And we were making progress. Where there was yellow would have been green probably by the end of the year, and possibly where there's red there might have been yellow, but you can't, that's, we don't know that for certain. So we're going to go with exactly what it is we have. Donna Swaby and Edie Simone, who are in charge of my elementary and my secondary schools, will be resetting those goals and we'll be ready to come back next month. Next one, Kristen. Thank you. For partnership, our two big goals were to reduce chronic absence. That's our number one thing. We had a couple of strategies. One was that we hired FSLs. And what I really want to highlight for you, up until March 16th, if you can see the top box, the only green is our FSLs, because our FSLs had already met their goal by March of that year. And so they were on track to exceed, to go beyond what they said. And that's just from dedication from a small group of 10 or 12 people who are committed to going into the homes, helping our families, and building trust, right? That's what it's all about. So I'm really proud of the work that the partnership department has done. Sandra Sanford, she balances that between writing a lot of grants for us. So they were doing very well. And the other one I wanted to show you was, in the green, this is the impact of after-school programming, right? We know that if we extend a student's day and we extend their year, we can reduce chronic absence. We proved that even with our summer learning program years ago. Extend their day, extend their year, they become more engaged, and then chronic absence is reduced. And that's exactly what happened here. Just showing you some of our Parks and Rec programming, that students who were chronically absent the year before. And so we're very strategic and we work very well with our city partners next door. Those students that are invited to out-of-school time learning at the elementary level are those students who are at risk, who are already at risk of being substantially deficient in reading and also have a history of chronic absence. And you can see there that in just this 1 year, we moved the needle from being chronic to not being, or to reducing the number of days that the students are chronic. And if I put my glasses on to read the numbers now, I'm going to fog up and so I won't be able to read it. But I'll give you access to this anyway. All right, can we go to the next slide? So our talent department, since I came on board, it has been, what are we doing to recruit and retain minority teachers, minority staff? What is the plan? What is the plan? I'm really excited to share with you next month what the plan will be for this coming school year. And I'm sorry we're a few months late, but again, COVID got in our way and we had to kind of reset our buttons for when we did our goal setting. But we did not make any gain with our minority teacher recruitment for this last year. I do feel confident that we will this year with a more solid department in place, Dr. Sanders in place, working as our equity officer, as well as Mary Ellen Manning, and having Ell Population, our teacher in residence, who is helping us doing some of the recruiting through our universities. You'll see 2 universities that are on tonight's agenda as well that he's reached out for and forged a new partnership. As far as staff wellness, we were trying to get our staff engaged in out of school time activities around yoga, different things that would possibly help de-stress, because education today is a very stressful environment. And I think we are on our way. We didn't do wonderful. We had small numbers of people. You can see that more deeply as you look at the pages that I provided to you. As far as our finance department, these goals are once again coming up for this year to upgrade in SunGuard and to go paperless. Those are our 2 major goals for last year. COVID hit, nothing happened. They're back on this year to go paperless. We have timelines that Mr. Kane submitted to me to show when this will be done. It should be done by the start of 2021. True, Mr. Kane? Not the paperless by 2021?
The Cognos and the system upgrade will be this year. Paperless will be over 2 years. Because once you identify the process, then it has to be
Okay, so we're looking at this year, making sure that we get the goals that we had set last year done for this year.
Yeah, 1 and 2 and 3 will be carried forward.
Thank you. Okay, next slide, Kristen. Thank you. Our tech department was really trying to they have a ticket order system, and to turn around and be able to respond in real time and to improve their response time. Basically, that was their first one. And then improve the state reports that are being created for building admins, so we have effective attendance meetings each week, and admins can access those reports on their own. And as far as our facilities department go, you'll be happy to know that our next one, Mr. Dion really has put on to improve our use of school dude work order system. Right, and that's we'll just put Gail Connolly name right next to that one. And we tried last year, before Mr. Dion came on, to share some of the supervision and responsibility at all levels of the organization. We knew that here at the high school we had someone monitoring it, but our elementaries really didn't have any support. Having these 2 new positions this year provides the support that our custodians need. A lot of our custodians were hired without training, and that's on us, right? You've got to hire and you've got to train. So that will be for next year. And final slide, I believe, is on transportation. And again, because of COVID, we were restricted in what we could do. But Tom Halleck, who I would like to take a minute now to say that he will be leaving us at the end of this month for a year. He will be deployed to Africa. Kiva will be sending out an email to all of you who are trying to do something small for him in his absence. But he was all over the site visits, and not only that, but he also helped us with all of the safety and security reports that are due to the state and federal government. Thankfully, we have Mr. Kanata on board who has taken that over. And that's really, in a nutshell, our year. So there were some successes, there's some just no growth, and there's areas where we have to improve on. I think it represents everyone in our lives, right? We all have things that we're strong at and we have to get better at. Any questions on that? All right.
Okay. Put myself back in the agenda here. All right, I think we're ready to move on to the consent agenda. Does anybody want to take anything off of the consent agenda?
Items C and D.
B and D?
C.
C and D, okay.
Charlie and Delta.
Okay, any others? Okay, hearing no objections to any of the others, we will adopt the consent agenda and then move to,
Motion to accept both the enrollment report and the in-person student enrollment report.
okay,
Second.
and discussion on those?
You, Sarah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can't open it, so, sorry.
Right, and so I'm gonna have Mr. Prokop present. This is giving us a snapshot of students remotely. This was something that the board had asked for last month. I'd like you to take a look at this report and see, is there other things that you need or want from this report? So Mr. Prokop, if you could just please present. Or is that Matt going to do that? And Jeff, if you're talking, you're on mute, so I'm not sure.
Yep, now I'm unmuted now on my second. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, let me get the reports up. As you see, they're in the, as I'm getting them up, they're the traditional report that I've normally produced for the board is one of them, and the second one was my understanding of a request to break out the in-person students by grade, by school. And that's what that second report will yield as information. That's almost all. Should be coming up now. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Not, well, yeah.
In theory.
We know there's a report there. We think there's numbers.
So, yeah, the general idea of the request was to just show that as we mark students that have chosen to stay home as remote only. So this report takes them out of the data and gives us our students between the cohorts A and cohorts B and AB, all combination together, so long as they're not marked as remote only. So as you can see from, you know, the total numbers we're looking at of in class, it's 60%, you know, of what we normally see in classrooms altogether as official enrollment. So as this is not an attendance report per se, this is just at most who's attending the schools throughout a week. Are there any questions about this or more specific things you would like to see in terms of reports from the board?
I mean, I just would like to say, I think this gives us a really good number of our in-person versus at home. I know that we really thought that until we were actually in school, we wouldn't have a good accurate number, and we were looking at about 50%, and it looks like it's a little closer to 60%, 60 plus in school, but that's still very high. Like 30 to 40% at home, that's still very high.
And that's countered with, again, and you know, Jeff right now is looking at a snapshot of, well, who is logging in, who is the remote learner, and I think you gave the number earlier, Jeff, 98%, and so we are hearing from 98%. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna move over here. I think you can see another tab that shows a couple of the snapshots of the report we normally run. And no offense, I think that was Mr. Mercier speaking. I just couldn't hear him. So if there are any questions specifically, if you could please repeat them for me to be able to hear.
So since these...
But in terms of the percentage, and can you see my new screen? Did it carry over correctly?
Yeah.
Can you present?
So in here, we're just showing a breakout between the yes and no of students that are remote only or marked as such. And again, that being a marking at the school level. So long as the accuracy there is the number, that's what we would see. But as you can see in terms of our connectivity, when we go back from the start of the 8th up till today, you see 97% making connections. So unlike the challenges that we had early, in the spring pandemic part, where we had many more kids with zero interaction of any sort, we're seeing obviously a better number here. I even have a couple other breakouts if you're curious to see those. And I'll just move up to a couple slides in terms of that then, with those same numbers, but breaking them out differently here. Special ed population versus non-special ed. And in terms of those numbers, it's a nearly even split between the two, with 92% connectivity of our special ed population. Moving over to the ELL population, nice to see that actually, of course the number is smaller of ELL versus not ELL, but the number is also smaller on the ELL side with 96% connected. So again, positive trends in terms of that. And then of course, the last one I did happen to put together here would be the high needs, which includes anyone who is ELL special ed, or also free and reduced lunch would be included here. Any one of those would get you onto this list. It's a state, high needs is a state criteria we use for reporting. And again, we're seeing high percentages at 96% from our high needs population. So, again, from my perspective, I should also speak that as this is mentioned, Google Classroom, and we certainly do have a platform that are PKs, which aren't on here in this reporting, but our kindergartners, our first graders are using Seesaw. So what we've tried to do here is merge both reports into a single data point, which is somewhat imperfect in any sort of grade level difference where they may be using, say, Seesaw instead of Google Classroom at a slightly upper grade. But we are collecting at least kindergartner and first grader interaction on their platform and not on a platform they're not using in this. Are there any questions about any of these data points that I'm showing you?
Can we get these emailed to us since they don't appear in the packet and I can't read it on the screen?
Can you please email these reports to all the board members? Meryl Gay asked that question.
Sure, I'll share this presentation if these are the slides you'd like. I'll definitely just share these right now.
Yeah.
And I think my question is, what would the board, Jeff was asking me, what other information are you looking for? Is there anything else? You can, if you think of it later, you can email us, but on a monthly basis, is this something that you want to see to make sure the numbers are staying?
I think we need to see, we weren't able to see these close up, so we don't know what was on there, so we can't tell you what we want.
Right. So Annie is, Ms. Parker just said if we could forward this presentation on to all board members, and if they have anything in addition they'd like to ask us for, they'll do so via email, because they'll be able to read the numbers a little bit better.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. All right.
Just one question, and maybe it was in there, and maybe I should wait to see, but I'm noticing that that's the connectivity. Is there a way that, like, when we typically do attendance reports, are we gonna have attendance reports that are disaggregated for remote, non-remote, or like in-person versus not in-person, right? Because on an A day, the B students aren't there, so even though they're not remote, I'm just curious if there's going to be a way for us to effectively suss out just how much of an impact on student engagement and attendance that being remote as opposed to being in person is going to have. You know, good or bad, I think it's just good for us to know.
Jeff, were you able to hear Nick?
Not fully. I could hear a little bit, but if you could repeat it.
Yeah, and if I don't do it well, Nick, you can email him after with the slides. But in essence, he'd like to see kind of a comparison of remote to non-remote, right? Even within, you know, what percentage of our kids consistently are coming remote or in person? He's trying to see, does remote have a better impact on students, or does in-person have a larger impact in terms of students attending?
Okay, I'm just trying to picture what we're exactly putting together there in terms of how to do it. I think obviously through some little more discussion and clarity, we could start to figure out precisely what you'd like to see put together. But we certainly, you know, what I've showed you today is more just the Google interaction itself, just as a connectivity, and it speaks more to literally just that part versus the attendance itself. And there's certainly a lot of attendance work that is going on right now in trying to collect, you know, that remote present versus that physical presence, and gathering those as separate codes. So there will be obviously ways to start, I believe, would you say sussing that out was the term perhaps, to start getting some of that better figured with it. So yeah, we can figure something out, I'm sure, in terms of it.
So if you want, Nick, I can schedule a time where we sit down, maybe you give Jeff.
I'll shoot him an email.
Perfect.
Okay. So,
Did we
do we
take
need to
E
accept
off?
that?
Or no?
No, we just
C
did
and
C
D.
and D.
Because E, there's no report and there's no documents available, so I don't think we can actually approve E.
That's in the side file.
Is it the side?
Yeah. Let's see what it was, yeah. Would you like to see a hard copy, Ms. Conley?
I don't like paper. Sometimes I like paper.
During COVID, she doesn't like paper.
During, yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, during COVID. That's
Do we need to vote on, we've now heard those.
There's been a motion to accept them, so we need to vote on them.
Okay. So all in favor of accepting the two reports that we just heard from Jeff?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to new business. I'm going to make a motion on item A.
Oh, sorry. Motion to approve the contract agreement for Chamberlain Owners Project Manager.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion on this item?
This is the item, I don't know. Okay, so this is a contract to have a owner's project manager for Chamberlain. It's quite pricey, right? It's $150 an hour. And we've never used this before, correct? It's always been it used to be Ray Moore.
Our facilities director has always been that person, if that's what you're referring to.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, that is correct.
And this person would be taking those responsibilities.
Right, and, yes, I mean, that's what the, contract states, that they would be taking over the Chamberlain project, and I believe the 2 groups. This needs to be approved by our board for it to pass. This originated from the school building committee and the city council. They drafted Mr. Moore brought a contract to the school building committee first. And we did speak last month about the role of the Board of Education in the voting role of the Board of Education here.
Is there a reason why our new facilities manager couldn't do this work?
No.
So if we approve this, we're approving the person that's going to do the job?
No, this is a contract, this is a proposed
Just a
contract
contract.
with Ray, who's retired from the board.
Yeah, so it'd be the person.
Work for the school building committee rather than what's traditionally been the case of the school facilities manager running this.
Is this person responsible for closing out projects?
Are you talking about this contracted position?
Yes.
Yeah, it's my understanding in that proposal or the, when we sat with the mayor and the president of the school board, yes, they stated that yes, this person, whoever it is.
School building committee.
School building
What did I
committee.
say? I'm
You
sorry.
said
School board.
Oh, sorry, school building committee. That this person would be responsible for closing out projects.
So if we have someone here that can do that, then why do we need someone over there that can do it as well? So I know we've had some discussion about it, but I just think it's a school building, and we have someone who's in charge of doing that work, so.
Ms. Connolly, I believe in that discussion, we had talked about that role, this contracted role of, it's not project manager, I can't recall the title, I keep forgetting it, but there's also something called a clerk of the works, which would be a lesser value, a lesser cost, but would be someone that could aid the Board of Education employee in meeting, or doing the paperwork and those sorts of things. Mr. Kane, because you have a better history of this, in years past, have we ever had this position here at the board?
No, you don't, no.
Be loud.
In the past, Director of Facilities he's the liaison to the school building committee. The city has an ordinance out there that basically says all contracts need to be approved by the Board of Education and the Common Council. This transaction occurred in July 31st. So the school building committee are approved, but the board has to approve. And it's this discussion, does the Common Council? Because it is an ordinance out there. So, this person is actually replacing the Director of Facilities. As we all recall, over the last 20 years, we have 13 capital projects that have not been closed out, and now they're being closed out. And it is a very costly endeavor. You're going to be paying $150 and $150 per hour to have somebody oversee a large project and 2 roof projects, and there's really no need for anybody to oversee the roof project. They're very miscellaneous projects.
Where does this money come from?
A combination of the bond, which is taxpayers' money, which you and I are paying through the state, and also a portion of it comes from the city's taxpayers. So, you know, right now there's a story out there that the project maybe get reimbursed 95%, but before it was reimbursed 80%. So somewhere about 80%, 75% is reimbursable from the state. So if you're paying somebody $150 per hour, $112.50 comes from state taxpayers, which we all are. The other $37.50 comes from us as city New Britain taxpayers. At the same time, as taxpayers, we're actually paying for Mr. Dion's salary on top of that.
And I mean, the city complained about duplication of services, right? I mean, like, two people doing the same things is duplication of services. So.
Mercer?
I can't in good conscience support this, and I can't support it for the cost. And the thing that got me directly is under the description of services, it says that this person is going to perform services similar to those that were performed when he was formerly the city and that he formerly provided to the City and School Building Committee as Chief Facilities and Special Projects Officer. We have someone filling that position. We have someone whose job it is to do these services. So I don't understand the need for this. I don't think it's ever been clearly communicated as to why having an additional person doing this is required. And if this money was to be, like, the salary of the chief of our facilities, that have our facilities department, is paid out of our school budget. To take $150,000, even though that is a small amount when you're talking about a large building project, out of that to pay for a duplication of services when that money could be going into the project itself, it just doesn't make sense to me. And no one from the school building committee has articulated a need for this. No one from the city has articulated a need for this. So I just can't support it based on the fact that there's no justification for these services at this time in this amount.
All right. Yes. Questions?
So, kind of off of what Mr. Mercier was saying, at the reimbursement rates, we always keep that very present, right? So in a project, it's been normally the up to 80, and sometimes it seems to me that we forego things even that would seem really nice for a building, right? Like an extra space.
Yes.
Like we have to get creative and make a cafetorium instead of two separate spaces that would be great for performers, you know, but more conducive to performances and things like that, because we're trying to cut as much as absolutely possible and getting that maximum reimbursement rate. So if it seems that we might get up to a 95% reimbursement rate now, which would be fantastic, if anything, this would be the time to kind of splurge on some of those little things that if the city's willing to bond extra and support that more, give the students the additional space or, you know, an extra office for someone to do a job well, rather than sharing spaces a lot of times for our special education students, right, to provide therapy and to do things like that, than going to a body that doesn't seem to have any justification behind it.
Any other board members want to speak to this? Okay, so we have a seconded motion. All in favor of the contract, say aye. All opposed? Say
Nay.
Nay.
Nay. Motion fails. All right, let's move on to the next item. Back to the right place here on this. Okay. Now we have the approving the schematics for the Chamberlain School renovation project.
We have Mr. Dion, and we have Freddie from Castle Booze, and a second gentleman from Castle Booze as well.
Okay.
First, we're gonna just do a flyover. So we're entering into the schematic, so we've taken the programming, and we go into the schematic design phase which is a rough drawing to show what the building will look like. And I'd like to present that to the board tonight. This is what they call a flyover. It's a short video, if you wanna just watch. It'll show the angles of the school from the outside.
This is the rendering that we did it. We went through the city council to show it to them with the building committee. And we had shown this to the Board of Ed too, but it was like virtual, so I don't know if anybody remembers it. But this is a concept. It may change slightly, but when we finalize our documents to go out to bid and go to the state for final approval, at that time we'll do another rendering. At that time we could see what it's gonna look like. So this is just a proposed thing, what it looks like.
It's very rough at this point. It'll be much more defined.
We'll have it,
Just gives you a general idea with programming, what we're trying to accomplish, what the building would look like.
Basically, and we have been in constant touch as per the superintendent's request with Manny and Ms. Donna Clark. Constant touch to make sure that their needs have been addressed and we have incorporated all their needs, and if there's any change we make, we immediately contact them.
I just want to point out, Manny Zeldabar is our current principal at Chamberlain, and Donna Clark is Related Services, and the building is being designed for hearing impaired students. We have quite a large population, and one of the asks from the American School is that we cohort our kids together, so there's a community of learners. So all of the one classroom per grade level will be retrofitted, or with the sound panels or whatever is needed for our students with a disability of hearing loss or deaf. So Chamberlain will be that hub, will be that site.
So as we have moved forward from schematics to design development, that's where we are. We have already went to a virtual meeting with the state. We'll have periodic meetings, and we meet with the school principal quite often to keep him in the loop, and with Ms. Clark also. And we are in the next design development stage. So this is just for a Board of Ed approval, because schematic, we are looking for approval for a while, but you had issues with COVID and all that. So we have moved forward to the next step, which is just a formality that board needs to just approve the schematic.
So just curious, at the right side of the picture, and yes, there a little flyover, that space there, the sort of point with the glass on both sides, what is that space there on the far right?
To the right side of, next to the buses there?
Yep.
The triangle.
That's the new media center.
Okay.
Currently, it's the admin wing, and we're putting the new offices in the new addition. So the media center will go into that space.
Okay.
I know at our last time we were looking at this, there was a number of people who raised concerns about having a dedicated auditorium or music space. Is that something, it looks like that's been maintained in this?
It has, yes. The auditorium remains, there's music
are the
rooms.
floor
And these are the floor plans, so this is the lower level, which will in-house the cafeteria, as it is now with the kitchen. Off to the right is resource activity rooms
Steam room.
and steam rooms at the top
Right,
by the
cafeteria.
cafeteria.
Yep.
And there's also the nurses area for the community.
School-based health center.
School-based health center.
We'll have a full
Okay,
school-based
good.
As you move over to the next slide, it'll be our main level, which you'll see, actually one more, that's the site plan. So this would be your main level, media center to the south, kindergarten to the north, with your kindergarten wing off to the side here, segregated. First grade art, music to the top there, all the special ed over in the existing 1992 wing, and the new addition at the bottom will encompass, if you can pan up just slightly. Opposite, sorry, yep. That'll be the new principal, main office, secured lobby, et cetera, in that space there. And moving on to the upper level, once again, we'll have more classrooms, the upper grades, with more in the new addition as well, hovering over the administrative wing.
It's my understanding too, I think Mr. Sanchez let me know that school-based health centers are now included as part of the reimbursement.
That's what,
They're reimbursable expenses, and this is the first time we're benefiting from that, right?
When we met with Costas,
Mhm.
he indicated that it would be reimbursable.
Right.
All right.
That's good.
Question?
So is it increasing the number of classrooms?
Are we increasing the number of classrooms?
We have K through 5, and currently, I believe that's what it is, and we are currently between 4 and 5 per grade level, and special ed. There's special ed rooms that are added on sporadically throughout the building, so we did that, so, correct.
And we compensated the one from the portables also.
Correct. So
Right,
the
so
portables
there will not be
Portables are
the
out.
portable. All kids will be
It's all
included in the building.
compensated in the building.
Good.
Yep.
Very nice.
So when we are done at the final stage, if the board wishes, we can always come back to give you a progress update.
I think that would
Yep.
probably be
Whenever you
good.
wish us,
Absolutely.
Kevin can let us know, and we'll be
Yeah.
happy to come and share it where we are at.
And I will speak on behalf of, a couple of board members have asked me, what's the timeline? Where is that timeline? And timelines make us feel good, right? We need to know when projects are due, what's happening in those phases, and when that's gonna be.
We have given Kevin his request a couple of months ago.
Yep.
That Newfield has developed the schedule or the timeline. Right now, from our schedule, we are in design development stage, so we are on schedule. Then from design development stage, it would go to construction document stage. But it's just 3 main things.
Right.
But in between, we have to go for all approvals, so like another two weeks ago, we met with the building of departments, everybody, to let them know where we are at, what we are doing. We communicate with the state to make sure that we take care of all the approval process from all the different agencies and everything. So it keeps continuing it, and our goal is to have this thing finished by April. May we go out to bid. Hopefully the bids come favorable. Newfield is the construction manager. They would award all the contracts, and once the school moves out in July, Newfield takes over an empty building and starts it. And from their schedule, which it was given with their interview process, that they will be substantially complete by December of following.
And so where would students be housed in the interim?
Sacred Heart is.
Sacred Heart, where,
It's in the works.
Right.
Sacred Heart.
there is enough room for all of our students to be at Sacred Heart.
that's unoccupied, correct?
It will be. This is their final year. I think they have 60 students there now.
So we're not gonna run into a Pope John Paul situation? Was it Pope John Paul?
It was Pope John Paul. Were
Whatever.
there children there?
No, they
Oh.
are not there, it was empty.
No, it was empty, and
Well,
then we
we
spent
had
a
to-
lot of money to.
Oh, right. Well,
This-
you know,
This one is in a better shape.
yeah.
Oh,
It's hard. Swing space is
Let me-
really difficult to
right,
find.
no, I know,
Yeah,
I know.
it's in much better shape. than-
It is. We toured it this summer, I believe. I can't even remember dates anymore, but we did tour it.
Yeah,
It's much larger than you'd think.
yeah.
So that will be our swing space.
Okay. All right. So
We just need the board just for.
To approve the schematic.
Yep.
The schematics.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion.
Nancy.
we have a motion.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and it's
We have a
seconded.
motion and a second, right? We just have to say yeah.
Okay. All in favor of approving the schematics? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right.
Motion to approve the policy 6146.22, which is revised special graduation requirements for the class of 2021.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Okay.
The main changes to this is because of the limited contact time that students have and all of the other things that we're dealing with remote versus hybrid, etc. The ask was to remove the capstone requirement, which would drop our graduation requirements to 22, which is still within the state allowable credits. And also because there's a lot of uncertainty around things like the ACTs and the SATs and those other things that fell into the large struck out section for the district performance standards, that was largely removed. At policy, we asked that the administration keep in some sort of counseling that had the decision, the goal of making sure that our seniors are getting some sort of guidance and preparations for the next step, be that college after or career readiness. So that's what that paragraph at the top there is, requiring that the student seniors are going to meet with guidance counselors and career center staff at least twice throughout their senior year to make a plan for post-high school graduation. And then the only other thing would be leaving in the area for the seal of biliteracy, because we still want to offer that.
Yes.
Okay. So we have second and motion. Any further questions or comments on this?
This is just for this year? Because I know some of the kids were really disappointed not to be able to do their capstone this year, like virtually or whatever. They worked hard.
This is, and I don't want to speak for Damon, Mike, you can, but it's for this year, I believe.
It is for this year.
Just this year.
And the difference last year is they were working on it through March and then.
I know.
So some did, some didn't, so that's why I want to get this out front this year, earlier in the year.
Yes, Nancy, it's this year only.
Okay,
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, and it says it right on there. It says it's only for the class of 2021.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I can't put my glasses on and
That's fine.
have my mask on.
Okay. So any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's move to the next. It's the digital arts curriculum.
Valerie, curriculum.
Somebody want to make digital arts curriculum? Motion.
Digital arts curriculum.
Motion to approve the curriculum for digital arts 1.
Okay.
Second.
All right.
What's that like shortcut to get back to the agenda?
We don't know.
I don't know. Like I
Yep.
click the page and then I can't get back fast enough.
Yeah, that's what I had. I was looking at this.
Control Alt.
Return to the
Control Alt
action
up.
plan.
Oh, control. Oh. I was doing control up, alt up. Thanks, sorry.
Okay, so, you want to say a few words about this?
Yeah, Ms. Clerkin presented to us at the Curriculum and Finance Committee, well, she didn't, but somebody else did.
Yeah, what's her?
Sakadato. Yeah, I'm like, I can't remember her name, I'm not about to attempt that right now. Yeah, they just explained what this digital arts curriculum will look like, that they put together, and we'll let our students get into, we asked questions about like what software they would be using, things like the Adobe Suite and whatever. And it's written for course 1, but they did say that it's a possibility to kind of continue it and develop digital arts 2 and things like that for continuity and for anyone who might have, a big interest in digital arts that way.
And it was for the juniors and seniors. And so there's a prerequisite.
Yes, so right now it's for juniors and seniors, and that was one of the questions. If eventually they developed a 2, it would probably go down to like sophomores and go from there, but right now, because that's the one we have, then it's juniors and seniors.
Okay. Anybody else want to talk about this?
Looks like a really cool course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about to.
Really
What Superintendent Sarah said, it looked very well designed. I like the ties to the national standards. I like the fact that it's very 21st century and it's very flexible to meet students and engage them with their interests. So, yeah, very well set up curriculum.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay, motion to approve new job description and new position request for a climate specialist for Slade Middle School.
Second.
Thank you. Todd, if you're here, could you talk about this? Mr. Verdi?
Mr. Verdi, I see that you're on here. Can you talk a little bit about the climate specialist position, please?
Oops.
He's got it.
So this would be at Slade just while he comes on, and would basically replace the dean position that is now gone, and it's a refocusing from sort of the punitive dean is there to dole out discipline to somebody being more proactive and using strategies and
To help the adults and the students, right?
To
In
help
terms
the
of creating a
adults
better
and
culture and
students. And
climate.
I think one of our sort of unanswered questions that day was.
Sort of, I can.
We
can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
Violet was just bringing up one of the questions that went unanswered, so we'll listen to her first.
Or that I'm not sure if we got like a full, which was how while there's a transition, right? Because you're building a new system, which is great, and in the meantime, this transition, who would take over the things that the dean would do?
Right.
So Todd, I don't know if you could hear, but they're saying in the interim, while this new person is coming on board and your dean has transitioned out, who will be taking on these responsibilities in the interim?
Right now, we are looking at Chris Godfrey. Chris Godfrey currently has been trained in cultural responsiveness, safe and healthy secondary schools, restorative practices, trauma-informed practices. So the training that he has is one piece, one component. He has the involvement in the community piece with, right now he's currently the CEO of the OIC, as well as he was the CEO of the YMCA for Berlin and New Britain. He's got a great connection within the community piece. He's currently been on our PBIS and SRDI team over the past 4 years. Instrumental in bringing the restorative practices into Slade. So of all the people that we do currently have, he is most well versed in the components of bringing in a climate specialist. In conjunction, he's worked with Mr. Jones and Ms. Pena over the past 4 years to kind of begin to solidify the practices, not only within the school, but within the community and with all stakeholders, which means custodians, secretaries, bus drivers, kitchen personnel. So we're really, we're fortunate where we have somebody that is in the wings that has the experience that can make these connections and continue to build these connections from the start.
excuse me. Was that your question?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Which, that's great info, that's fine. But the question is, as this new person, be it this person they mentioned or someone else, builds this new restorative and everything else system, right? There will be some in between where somebody still has to do kind of what the old dean did. And it seems like a lot for somebody to build all this and do 100% of what the old position did. So in the meantime, who is taking on, like, you know, here's this kid with a referral or whatever, or is this person expected to do all of that and build a whole new system?
Did you hear Todd?
I picked up bits and pieces, Nancy. Can you kind of restate that for me?
I'm gonna restate it, and I hope in the meantime, while this new person is onboarding, right? The shift doesn't happen overnight for kids, right? They're still gonna act the way they're gonna act. And while you're building capacity with this new person to make a better culture climate so kids are making better decisions and you're moving towards restorative, who's gonna handle the ones that still are living in the old world of, did I say that correctly, Violet?
Yeah, that's cool.
That's good? Okay.
Okay, so currently we have these components in place. They all exist, I don't really want to say in isolation, but in isolation. The climate specialist will bring these positions together in the realm of culture and climate in that domain. And what that will allow us to do is to begin to align the practices in conjunction with the district. When we talk about the district and readiness units, we're looking for alignment from the academic realm, also through that culture and climate realm. And this does it, this brings these components together in alignment, which works out really well because the teachers have already been receiving training on this. But now it's about threading this additional training, coaching, and support into their daily practices. So the person that is on site that can do this, Chris Godfrey, has been working in this capacity over the past 3 to 4 years regarding this. So these systems will continue to run, but they'll be able to run more efficiently because we'll have more efficient systems and processes that guide them.
Gail has a follow-up.
Yep. So in the interim of now you have no dean and you're gonna bring in a new person to catch them up to speed. Who's doing the dean's old job?
Who's doing the dean's old job?
Presently.
Is it Mr. Godfrey? Is he taking on this whole ball of wax?
That's correct. What's happening is as the dean is being phased on over the next couple of years or transitioned, Mr. Godfrey as the climate coach specialist will assume these responsibilities, yes.
So Todd, things like the 8th grade trip, the dances,
Eighth grade trip, dances, all the
visiting
extras
parents
that-
home if necessary, which is not necessarily part of their duty. Who's going to do all of that?
Okay, great question, Andy. Those actually do fall under the Culture and Climate Committee of the school. Culture and climate is so important is that we, in our alignment with the state and going through our commissioners network and our SIG, have identified 3 areas, culture and climate being one of them. These topics, these pieces come under the culture and climate piece of the lead teacher team, in which the PBIS and SRBI components will absorb these pieces and be responsible for them.
So if you have a student that's acting up in the classroom, he's going to be the person to go down and get the student and bring them back and then do whatever they do to resolve the issue, like day to day.
I'm sorry, I did not get that.
Oh. So you're saying the day-to-day stuff that the former dean did, you're saying that this climate specialist is doing that?
I'm saying that those roles are going to become part of the climate specialist responsibility and the climate team. So for example, we have the climate specialist, we currently have a dean, we have multiple BSAs within our system. These are all tier 1 systems. Our goal is to keep our students in school. So what we've got to do is we have to teach those tier 1 strategies and supports to staff, students, to all stakeholders to make sure that we're able to keep the students in school. Our biggest thing is that when we initiated or implemented restorative practices, Annie, that the second year we saw a drop-off. Upon the analysis of the data for the drop-off was that we did not have the appropriate staffing to complete the restorative conferences with the teachers and the students. So that's one of our goals, is that we reshuffle and repurpose our current staff to be able to meet those goals, to have those restorative conferences with the student. And everybody knows, building those interpersonal relationships will benefit us in the long run.
Thank you.
I think we have it in blood that he
You're
won't
welcome.
look for a dean.
What?
I think we have it in blood that he won't ask for a dean.
So Todd, basically, they just want to make sure that you go on record as saying you're not coming back next year asking for a dean. I think I summarized that, right?
If I'm not mistaken, it's part of a 2-year transition plan. Right now, the climate specialist will be paid out of the Commissioners Network and the SIG monies.
Yeah.
And we currently have funding over the next couple of years for that.
Right. And then when the funding is up, the position goes away, or we find a way to say it's working, we have to forego something else, right? Unless we get a windfall of money. Or, Todd, unless you show that having a climate specialist improves the culture climate, helps build capacity in adults, helps build capacity in kids, then we look at it as a district level and say, well, how are we gonna get that for everyone? So a lot of work for you.
You know, that's the goal, and part of the conversation is for us to kind of be, very much so, be aligned with the district in terms of what the district is looking at regarding the positions such as this. I'd be remiss in saying that, Mr. Jones, moving on in his transition, we will always, Mr. Jones has been a credit to the profession, and we are going to miss him. Fortunately, we're going to be able to have a process put in terms as we move through this transition.
Good luck.
Andy's coming out of retirement.
Annie will be there, she'll direct traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to.
I know.
I'll be honest with everybody, after working so many years with Mr. Jones, he has brought these components to the table. When we talk about having a climate specialist, we look at it and say, what are those components that we really want? And in working with James, when we look at the community relationships, the familial relationships, the relationships with all stakeholders, those are those pieces that we need to make sure live on throughout Slade Middle School.
Great. Ms. Sims Dr. Sims had a question.
Yeah, no, I just was gonna say that I'm 100% supportive of that and of, moving away from punitive to restorative practices and culture and climate, and we know the research will tell us that that is going to be successful.
Absolutely.
If that's implemented. So my question about the duties and support are more about making sure that someone is not so overwhelmed in that work that they don't actually end up doing these new pieces that we're talking about, right? If they get boggled down day to day, which can happen very quickly, especially in the middle school, and I've been there, right? With this one's acting up in classes, and not get to those things, then that's where it's not gonna work.
Sure.
And then that's where it's like, oh, look, we tried this thing and it didn't work, but it wasn't implemented. So, it might have been that it wasn't implemented correctly. So that is, for me, the reason behind asking what the kind of additional support is with those little things while they take on this giant task of
Shifting
maybe some
practice.
existing pieces, bringing them together, but it's still gonna take a lot of work and creation, but I'm with it.
Yeah, that's a great statement, because that's what we did find in our second year, was that we were a little bit overwhelmed and we did not have the resources for this. That's why moving forward, we now currently have a restorative team and our PBIS, SRBI school-wide team to support the processes. In part of this, we recruited our school social worker as well as our 1.5 guidance counselors to support this process, as well as our BSAs and our dean. So you can see that we are really repurposing the staff to meet the needs that we see are approaching us.
anything further on this? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'm gonna ask for a 5-minute recess before we go on to the next page.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Do we need to have a vote on that?
Technically, you vote to go into recess, but you can assume.
Okay,
it's
we're
without-
gonna take a 5-minute recess. Okay, so we will now reconvene and let's move on to item F.
Sorry. Okay, item F, a motion to approve new position request for a family school liaison for partnership office.
Second.
Okay. Discussion on this?
And if anyone have any questions, if not, let's just vote.
Okay,
Anyone questions? No? Okay.
So no questions.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item G.
Item G, motion to approve new position request for a .4 native language support assistant for New Britain High School, Pulaski, De Loretta, Smalley, and Slade School. 7 positions altogether.
Second.
Thank you. And I think they mentioned that these would be Spanish and
Arabic.
and Arabic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any
Any
discussion
more
on this? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve the contract affiliation agreements between the Consolidated School District of New Britain and Mitchell College and the Husson University.
Second.
All right, any
Point of, do I have to abstain because that one is, like, it involves Zach for his MOU? Do I have to abstain? I don't know.
You
This is a
can.
question about a conflict of
If you want,
interest.
Yeah.
Hey,
Why
you're
don't you
not
just be
financially benefiting from it, so I
Right.
would
Okay.
not.
Okay,
Yeah. You can if you feel the need to.
Okay.
any questions or concerns about this? Hearing none,
No
all in,
questions. Sorry.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item I,
It's just
curriculum.
Yeah. Approved purchase order for curriculum renewal and professional learning project for Ed Advance for 2020 to 2021.
Second.
Okay. Any,
It's continuing their work, right? We had the
Okay.
big presentation. We thought we were gonna put it on consent, but we thought it would be, it's a big amount. It's continuing their work to redo the curriculum.
so this is
And
a,
now there's funds from multiple schools, all commissioners network, but
Right.
the funds are more spread out.
but the total amount for this contract is 1.7 million.
Yep.
Okay,
That's including all the new instructional coaches that were hired also and are at the building levels now.
okay.
Right. Forgot that part.
All right, any discussion on this item?
We're good.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item J,
Approved purchase order and bid waiver for services rendered by School Climate Consultants LLC for staff at Pulaski. So this was already done. Commissioners Network grant.
Second.
okay. Any discussion on this? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item K,
Sorry, I'm trying to get back to the agenda. Is it mine?
It's
Yeah,
finance, what I can
finance.
say. Approved purchase order, bid waiver, and contract between Mr. Braulio Santiago of Launching Leaders in Education and Consolidated School District of New Britain for $16,500. This one has no committee review.
Second.
okay. there's some more information about this since it
I'm
doesn't.
gonna see if Ms. Robles is on the call. Second, sorry.
She wasn't earlier.
She is. Ms. Robles, can you speak to this, please? You're on mute. If you could unmute yourself and speak to item K.
Star 6.
Good evening. This is Mrs. Robles.
So.
Hi.
We hear you.
We hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. So you can just
Okay.
give an overview of the work Mr. Santiago did last year and this year?
Yes. Mr. Brandon Santiago has been mentoring myself as well as my APs. Probably since last December, we started the contract with him. And he comes in probably 3 to 4 times a month and sits down with us. And we look at data, we look at how our SRBI process is working, we look at the attendance teams, we look at the attendance data, and just making sure that we are all on target with the data that we have and what else we have to do. But most importantly, as an experienced leader, just to give us, myself and my 2 AP support as we, as well as we develop our own professional expertise in our administrative moving forward.
Okay. Any questions about this one? Okay. All in favor?
Sorry, I heard moving forward, but then I heard, this says services rendered. I don't know if I spaced out.
This is, she said that she started last December and
Okay.
is continuing this for this
Yes.
school year as well.
So there'll be additional money. This doesn't cover all of it.
Ms. Robles, is the $16,000 of the full price for the year?
Yes.
That's for this academic year, though, not last year.
I don't know what just.
Correct.
Was it 60 or?
16,500.
16,500.
This-
Okay.
Covers this academic year, yes.
I lost my.
Okay. So, any further comments? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so, item
L.
L.
I don't.
Approve purchase order and bid waiver for services rendered by Studer Education?
Yes.
Really? Okay. For 2020 to 2021 school year, $23,500, and this also has no committee review. It would come from Alliance.
Do you want me to speak to
Yes,
that?
please do.
Second first?
Second.
Yep. Okay.
So we've been partnering with Studer since the first year I came on. They are the ones we partner with for the school surveys, all the school surveys that go out to all stakeholder groups. Last year, we brought on this next arm of evaluating or being able to get feedback on how we are, what our services are like at central office by department. So this year, this is our second year. Last year was our first year. Each department, you'll notice on the scorecards, will have one of the goals that came out as a result of feedback given by the stakeholder groups who take this survey are all building administrators, all union leadership. They take this and they evaluate our services based on timeliness, based on accessibility. There are six standards that we hold ourselves to at central office because we provide a service and our stakeholders are the entire staff here in New Britain. So each department has these. You'll notice next month also when Ms. Manning presents her scorecards for the year, we are working on revising the current non-certified evaluation, which is very antiquated and generic. And so we, no different than every department head or teacher, they'll need to create an SLO. Non-certified staff will need to create an SLO of sorts to say, here's my goal and here's how I'm working toward it. Because every level of the organization has to be accountable with goals and metrics aligned to their department heads in every department, and that has not historically been the case. I can bring back too, if you'd like, last year's, our first go-around with this to see what our scores were. I can just pass that on for your review so you can see how each of the departments was rated. It's an interesting, it's a good tool to use for your department to help them at improving on customer service. So that's what that's about.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Any further questions about this contract? Okay.
Oh, I did. So when we first, or the first time that maybe I was on the board and approved this, we talked about the response rate and.
The response rate?
Yeah, to.
Surveys?
Yeah, to those like climate surveys, and it was really, really low back then. So, and this just came to me in that like, well, I first saw it on the packet and could have emailed to get more info or whatever, but have you seen an increase in response? And I know that last year was funky because it, you know.
Right. So at the building level, we have, but this piece of it, we only did for our first year last year, so I have nothing to compare it to. But all of the building administrators were asked to talk to their staff and then speak on behalf of their staff, right? We didn't want to have 2,000 responses coming in. Some of it's not relevant for some stakeholders on our staff. So our building admins took this survey, as did our union leadership in every union. Those are the only people taking this arm of the survey. And we had a good response last year for the first time. I would say near 100% of the people took the survey and gave feedback. There's sections for them to write comments too. If they rate anything as poor or very poor, they're asked to provide detail and comments.
Okay.
Now, are we doing anything with the last two things?
We should, let's finish with this one first. So any further conversation on item L? Okay, then all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we have two more items on here having to do with the superintendent's year-end evaluation and contract. We'll do those in executive session, but it is 9 o'clock, and I just want to get a temperature on the board about whether we want to do this today or push this back a month.
I say we push it back if it doesn't.
Sorry, no, we don't have one. Contractually, does it matter when we vote?
Just
Nope.
before next year.
You don't have a contract that's expiring right now.
Right.
No, I'm not. I'm on right. I have a
Okay.
2-year contract remaining now. We can't have more than a 3-year contract at any given time, so next month would be fine. I mean, that's fine.
Gives you an out too.
Yep.
What'd you say?
Said nothing. Said it gives you an out too.
I can't see right now and I cannot hear.
That's right, give us a better
Yeah.
chance to read all the information you sent us too.
Yeah, I was about to say, I would just say if we're going to push it off, making sure that's not something that we are
Keep doing?
continually pushing off, and if we need to at some point scheduling a special meeting just to tackle that specifically.
That would be nice.
Yeah,
I know, because you're not so dead at the end.
Yeah.
right,
Right.
Especially since we
I don't
tend
have
to
to
put
do dinner, but we
executive
can't
session
sit
towards the
together.
end.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will look at trying to schedule a special meeting. I think that would actually be better.
Okay. It'll only take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You didn't see all my chalk writing in there?
No.
Oh.
Did you put writing in there?
I did not.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yet.
but
Now I
that's why
have
I
time.
gave you a kind of an overview too, right? You get
Yeah.
the Spark Notes and you get the comprehensive text.
Yeah. Okay, so you want a motion to close? Or do we have to have a motion to move these two items?
I think we have, I would like a motion to, make a motion to reconsider an item that, that first item that we dealt with, the football stuff. And is there some more information that you've got?
There is some more information. Mr. Bodie has provided his plan, like his mitigating strategies and his plans for the season.
So let me ask, first of all, because I've never dealt with a motion to reconsider before, what's the procedure?
Motion to reconsider needs a second.
Okay.
Second.
And the motion needed to be made by someone who was
Not
in the
involved.
prevailing side, which you were. And it is a majority vote. It's non-debatable. The motion to reconsider is non-debatable. But then the question is, because the original question was debatable, it can be debated again as it's being reconsidered.
Okay, so we have a motion to reconsider that has been seconded. So all in favor of revisiting that issue about football, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any
Nay.
abstentions? One opposed, okay. Any abstentions? Okay, so the motion to reconsider carries, and now we will discuss the issue.
All right, so he does apologize because he's prepared, but he was not prepared to present, he didn't send it over. He sent his return to play action plan. I did request him to remove Chesley as part of the playing fields because that is an uncontrollable environment, so he has done that. It's basically, if NBHS closes, they shut down. If the state shuts down, they shut down. If they have a case on the team, they shut down. So they do have a plan in place to handle COVID and a rise in numbers. They just were not prepared to present like Lenny was, and they weren't allowed to come in, so it really was, they do have a plan.
Okay.
So if they don't use Chesley, what would they use?
The vet, so that's a controlled environment, so
The what?
veterans to get in and out.
Where is this place you're saying?
Veteran Stadium.
Okay.
Yep, so it's controlled. Chesley is not a controlled environment, so any Sunday if you go there, it's just parents
Anybody,
everywhere.
yeah.
Anybody, and
Mhm.
I don't know how many people, because you can't count. You bring high, you stand there with a clicker, and you say 100, whatever, I think they're going at 150, October 8th, so you stand there with a clicker and you say, sorry, you're out. And so I don't know if you had a chance to read it, he was gonna send it to everybody.
I heard some dings. Yeah.
Okay, yep. All right. So is there further
Yep.
discussion on this?
No, I mean, I understand everybody's precautions and why you may have said no, abstain or whatever, just, I know these kids and the coaches, and they're not gonna let our kids. I don't know, I can't say they're not gonna let them get COVID, right? They're gonna do everything
Nobody can
possible
help that,
to
yeah.
keep them protected.
Yep. Okay.
I have to say, I feel like this, like I said before, I feel like this similarly to how I felt when we were discussing even reopening plans. And it was a very tough decision because, I have two small children, both of who I send into school. And I know that every day I put them on a bus or every day I send them into a building, there's a chance that they might get COVID. Every day they play with a neighbor kid, there's a chance that they might get COVID. Every day they visit a grandparent. Like, the risks are out there. And I think, especially in light of the fact that all of those factors of if the high school shut down, they're not playing. That does give the school district at least some measure of knowing that they're accountable to some stronger safety standards. Right. The fact that they're planning on shutting down if there are confirmed cases. I totally respect and understand, Ms. Parker and Ms. Dawson, your positions. I still think that giving the parents the choice to weigh their own risks and look at their own situation, just like we gave the choice to all parents whether they were ready to come back in hybrid or stay full remote. This is another thing where I think giving our parents the choice to make informed decisions, and I hope that they're making them, with full knowledge and with full understanding of the risks. And I feel like that the league is going to try to do their best to keep these kids safe. I hope they are.
Right. I will probably be one that's on the sideline sanitizing. You know what I mean? Because I'm a germaphobe anyway.
Okay, is there further discussion on this item? All right, all in favor? Say
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain. So 2 abstentions. And I'm assuming everybody else voted the same way they did before, which makes it a 3-2 vote with 2 abstentions.
What was the second abstention?
Me. So the motion carries. Any further business? All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Yep.
Second.
Second?